Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Max Power Hour. My name is Fidel Mienso. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Midlands African Chamber, and I will be your host this evening. Today's Power Hour is powered by Google, and we are grateful for their continued support in helping us bring timely, relevant, and impactful learning opportunities to our entrepreneurial community. Power Hour is designed to connect and directly with industry experts who share practical insights and tools you can apply immediately to strengthen your business. Today's topic, AI ethics in business, building trust in the age of artificial intelligence, is especially timely as more organizations integrate AI into their operations, decision making, and customer engagement. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded and will be shared following this event. Feel free to drop questions in the chat throughout the presentation. We will address them as many as possible during the Q&A session. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. AnnMarie Marlier, Executive Director of the Business Ethics Alliance. Dr. AnnMarie Marlier joined the organization in 2022 as Vice President of Leadership Development and has served as Executive Director since 2023. She brings over 20 years of expertise as an accomplished leader, administrator, talent developer, and program curriculum designer with a strong background in teaching and facilitation across post-secondary, nonprofit, and corporate environments. Her expertise spans face-to-face, hybrid, blended, and learning modalities, equipping her to guide organizations through complex and evolving topics such as ethics and responsible innovation. AnnMarie is a graduate of Leadership, Nebraska, and actively serves the community, including her role on the board of directors of the Nebraska Early Childhood Collaborative. She is also the current president of Omaha Network, a women's networking group for senior level female leaders. She holds a doctorate in urban education from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee with a minor in business administration, a master's of education in adult education from Carroll University, and a Bachelor of Arts in English and Communication, Media, and Theater from Norbert College. Her Gallup strengths include maximizer, connectedness, input, learner, intellection, which reflects her thoughtful and strategic approach to leadership and ethical decision making. Today, Dr. Marlier will guide us through how businesses can approach AI responsibly, mitigate risk, and build trust in an increasingly technology-driven world. AnnMarie, thank you so much for joining us.
So honored. Boy, that introduction just makes me seem, I don't know, old. And really, it's just I've always had a love of learning, and so the opportunity to be here to just share some of what I've learned is it's exciting. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and now I will turn it over to you.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen. Okay, and here we go.
Your presentation was here. I was supposed to add it to the screen, but I'm not seeing it anymore.
That's okay. Can you see? Hang on. Can you see my screen now?
Okay, hold on. Yes, there it goes.
Okay.
I can just add it to the stage there.
Great. All right. So as we talked about a little bit, I can't quite see you, so I'm going to pretend you are right in the middle of the screen.
Right there.
I can hear you perfectly. And so if there's any comments while we're going through the presentation, please let me know, and I'm happy to address them as we go along.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So we're going to talk about the next generation of AI ethics. And the reason I talk about the next generation is because, as we'll see in some video clips in a little bit, AI has been around a lot longer than people think it has. So So I'll share that and you'll see why I say next generation. So for those of your viewers who don't know about us, I'm going to skip that slide because you just read a bio about me. We were founded in the mid-2000s, 2007 specifically, on the heels of the Enron scandal. Enron was a huge energy corp, and they were based here in Omaha before they moved down to Houston. Once in Houston, they got caught shredding documents and committing fraud. Well, because they were here in Omaha, that really upset the business community, whose families went to church together with Enron's executive families, and their kids went to school together. And the Omaha business leaders were thinking, well, that's just not how we do business in Omaha. And so Dr. Beverly Crocker is a retired professor emerita at Creighton of Business Ethics. She got together with the three gentlemen in the picture: Jim Hegarty, the president and CEO of Better Business Bureau; David Brown, who was the president of the Omaha Chamber at the time; and Dr. Anthony Hendrickson, who's the dean of the College of Business, the Heider College of Business at Creighton, and still is. They got together with some of the business community leaders, particularly Bob Bates and Butch Effington, to represent the Omaha business community. And what they found is that most companies had some internal practices to guide ethics and compliance. There were state regulations, there were federal regulations, but there wasn't anything as a community that guided holding peers accountable. And so we were born as an organization to fill that community gap. So we elevate and inspire leaders, organizations, and communities through positive, practical business education. We do that through events. We do that through workshops. We don't judge. We just provide a really good platform for difficult discussions to happen. We are brave, we are engaged, we are authentic, we learn alongside communities. We're not afraid to take a chance on a difficult conversation. And we know what our mission is. We are who we are. We don't try to be anything else. So today, we're going to clarify some definitions because there's a lot of information and misinformation about AI-related terminology. We'll talk about AI hallucinations. And yes, those are a real thing with real consequences. And we're going to apply some ethical decision-making models to real-world AI case scenarios. Are we ready, Fidel? Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Usually we do this activity in person. In the chat, I'm gonna read a couple of statements, and if your viewers would humor me, and in the chat, tell me if they agree or disagree with a statement, and then I'll kind of ask you to see what's going on in the chat, maybe. So for those of you following along at home, just think about whether you would disagree or agree with the statement. Ethics are the same as values. Think about that. Do you agree that ethics and values are the same? Or do you think they're slightly different? Fidel, what do you think?
I think they're different.
Okay, why? I'm putting you on the spot. I totally know that.
Yes, you are. Well, some people have values. There are people who have values and who are still not ethical.
Okay. All right. That's a great viewpoint. When we put this question out there, I've seen everything from people, everybody in the room says yes to the same. I've seen it where everybody in the room says nope, or I've seen it where they're split. I promise I'll answer that question in a little bit.
Okay.
Ethics can be regulated. I wonder what your viewers think about this one. If we can regulate ethics.
Okay.
I'm going to go to the next question. AI, artificial intelligence, can make ethical decisions. I'm going to answer that question at the very end of the presentation because I asked an expert and they gave me a really amazing answer.
Okay.
And what do we think about compliance and ethics being the same thing?
Compliance and ethics being the same thing.
Yeah. A lot of organizations have a compliance and ethics department, but it's a little unclear as to whether they're the same thing.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So let's go ahead, let's explore some definitions. And this needs to guide us throughout the presentation. I want AI to make decisions for me. This becomes really important with this next generation of AI. If these questions are hard for you and your viewers, they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be brain power questions to really kind of get you thinking that there's no easy answers when it comes to ethics. So let's define ethics. As you read earlier, I'm a communications and English double major for my undergraduate degrees. So I go to the dictionary when I want a definition. And according to Merriam-Webster.com, ethics is the principles of conduct governing an individual or group. So ethics, plural, are actions derived from a set of values or moral principles, but they're not the values or moral principles themselves. So that very much reflects, Fidel, what you said, right? That somebody can have a value, can hold a value, or can hold a principle, but maybe that value or that principle isn't ethical, right? And ethics are actions. So what I hear a lot of times is that the ethics are more internal, the values are more internal, whereas our ethical behavior is external. So one is more internal, what we feel and think inside. The other is what others see on the outside. A regulation is a rule or order issued by an executive authority or regulatory agency of government and having the force of law. It's pretty straightforward. Somebody issues a rule, they expect it to be followed. Compliance. Here's where we get a little tricky. So compliance is conformity in fulfilling official requirements, but official requirements can be vague. Why? Well, official according to who or what? Attorneys need to follow what is written and codified as law, right? But what if official means the boss? And what if two or more requirements are equal in priority? Which requirement takes precedence? Which one needs to be followed? And most importantly, what if the official requirement's unethical? When I do this activity and I go through these definitions, I usually have people give examples of a law or a company policy that requires compliance, but it's unethical. And there are quite a few. And so it's really difficult to get people to say, I should be compliant with something that's unethical. I don't think so. And this is really difficult when you're trying to judge, well, if I have to be compliant to have my job, but the requirement's unethical. So again, we're not here to say, well, you should do this or you should do that. We're here to get people to really think for themselves and evaluate what they need to do. Okay, so here's a quick kind of compare and contrast between compliance and ethics. This comes from Forbes. Ethics are a framework. They guide behavior and decision making. Pretty simple. They follow the spirit of the law, the policy, the regulation. It influences through what's right. What's the right thing to do? But ethics are less defined and they're more ambiguous. They're very much aligned with morals and values. Compliance is also a framework to guide behavior and decision making. So they're both frameworks. Compliance, however, follows the letter of the law or the policy or the regulation. and it influences through the legal process. Compliance is more defined and structured, and it's more aligned with rules and processes. So you can see that we would hope that there is an overlap between ethics and compliance. But in some cases, there just isn't. And so people need to decide in business which is going to guide them. What's the higher purpose? Is it ethics or is it compliance? And that may vary by profession, that may vary by industry, that may vary by workplace or community or culture. And if these aren't clear, then discussions need to be had so that there is clarity. Okay, before I move on to some AI definitions, Fidel, any comments or questions as we go on?
No, not yet.
Okay, we're doing okay.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to play a couple of video clips here. I will do some AI definitions. And first of all, we're going to define AI, because people think AI is all robots, and that's just not the case. It's partially the case, but it's not the whole case. So artificial intelligence is the capability of computer systems or algorithms, software, programming, right, to imitate intelligent human behavior. This definition makes a few assumptions. One, that human behavior is always intelligent, which unfortunately I think we know is not always the case. But AI, it's software. It is nothing more than software. And on this next slide, you'll see what I mean. So again, AI is a software model. It's based on mathematical algorithms, okay? It's developed and it's tested and it's implemented by people. People are at the core of artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's also very limited by human inputs because AI reflects the belief and the biases, the perceptions, and the behaviors of the programmers. What I mean by this is, if I think that all scientists are 3.5 foot tall, green-skinned beings with purple hair, I could very inadvertently, or maybe on purpose, program that definition and that vision of what I think a scientist is into the software that AI would run on. So then anybody who's going to do a search using AI that says, show me a picture of a scientist, they could see my picture of a 3.5 foot tall, green-skinned, purple-haired being. That is really difficult then, because how do people know what's right, what's accurate, if it's very much biased, which it is? Now, AI can also be generative or agentic, and I'll get those definitions in just a second. Here's a really important piece, though, because AI is not alive or sentient. AI does not have emotions. It can't be happy. It can't be sad. It can't breathe. It can't completely replicate adult learning. It is not automatically evolving without human intervention. It always requires human intervention. It's not omniscient or all-knowing. It only can process what it's programmed to process. And it can't perceive, right? If it sees my face and I have a frown and maybe my eyes are big and wide, it can make a guess as to the emotion that I'm feeling, but it really cannot tell me I'm happy or I'm sad or I'm angry just based on one picture, one moment in time. And this is important because people think, oh, AI, robots are going to take over and they can feel and they're alive, but they're not. Artificial intelligence is nothing more than software based on mathematical algorithms. So I want your viewers to really understand that it has limitations. So now I am going to show a video clip. And again, we're crossing our fingers, right? That tips work. Let's see here. I probably need to stop that screen and I'm going to go to a different screen.
Okay.
So give me just a second to share this screen.
All right.
And let's see. You should see a movie screen. Share screen. Share the window. Here we go. Okay. Okay, let me know. There we go. All right. Ready for this clip?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is a movie hang on.
We can see, but we can't hear it.
You can hear it?
No, we cannot.
Okay, hold on. Let's see here. Let me. Okay. I'm using the display audio for the microphone, so hopefully this'll do it. Let's try it again.
Okay. No, it's not playing at all.
It's not playing?
Mm-mm. It just froze.
Oh no. Okay, well, darn it.
Do you need to remove it and then try to add it again?
No, I mean, I want to be
Oh, okay.
very conscious.
Okay, well, it came back, and I can see a visual, but
Okay,
nothing is playing yet.
it's not playing. There might be a little bit of a lag. So
Okay.
in the
So
interest of time, I'll
Mhm.
explain what the clip is.
Okay.
And I'll put it back to our presentation. Okay.
Okay.
So give me just a second to present, and then I'll explain what the clip is. Present, stop screen, share screen. We're going to share screen, and we're going to share a window, and we're going to share this window and play from the start. Okay. So what we have in this particular, oh goodness heavens. Sorry, let me get to where we were. Okay. This particular clip is from a movie called War Games. It's from 1983, and it stars Matthew Broderick as a young high school student who is very into computers. And his friend, they're not quite boyfriend and girlfriend, is played by Ali Sheedy. She is a computer newbie. She doesn't know much about anything. And so in the scene, Matthew Broderick's character is trying to show off for her, and he is hacking into what he thinks is a gaming system. And the gaming system was taught to think rationally by playing games like chess or checkers. And Ali Sheedy's character is fascinated by how the computer can talk, how it can interact with people, how it can, in a sense, behave like a human being. It's one of the earlier known movies where AI is featured as almost a main character.
Mm.
What we find out later in the movie is that this AI system, when it asks, shall we play a game, is actually connected to a training exercise for NORAD, which is, I think it's a fictional name, but it's implied that it's part of the armed forces of the United States. And it's training the soldiers and the generals and everybody how to predict an outcome for global thermonuclear war, is what the game is called in the movie. And the whole movie is about how Matthew Broderick's character gets involved in what he thinks is a game, but it's really not a game. And it's a great clip about what can happen when we don't understand, when we don't ask questions, when we make assumptions about what something is when it comes to AI. So highly recommend the movie. It's really easy to find. Again, it's a bit older. It's, I hate to say it, almost 40 years old, but it's a great example of early AI. Generative AI is artificial intelligence designed to produce output, especially text or images normally requiring human intelligence, typically by applying machine learning techniques to large collections of data. So let's say you want to create an image of Pooh Bear from Disney, but instead of wearing his red t-shirt that he always wears, you want him to have a blue t-shirt with a giant peace sign on it. And you want his ears not to look round, but to look square. You could go to Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, ChatGPT, and you could say, you would literally tell the software program, I want an image of Disney's Winnie the Pooh, but with square ears instead of round ones, a blue t-shirt instead of a red one, and a peace sign on the t-shirt instead of the words Pooh. And it would create an image for you, taking it from all the data it has access to. Okay, pretty harmless, right? Now, pretend you are an attorney and you're running short on time and you have to prepare a legal brief for court. And so you ask AI to prepare this legal brief. You give it some parameters, but not everything. And it prepares a legal brief for you. You take it into court, and the judge looks at this and says, how did you do this? And this is a real case that happened here in Nebraska. An attorney lost his ability to practice law because he did not look at the legal brief that was filed on behalf of his client. And what happened in that brief is that the AI software he was using hallucinated. It created, made up case law. And the attorney didn't check to make sure that the case law was accurate. So when you're thinking about, now AI has amazing capabilities. If you're trying to write a long procedure, start with AI. If you want to check your grammar for an essay, you use Grammarly. Grammarly is AI software. It can do amazing things. But if we aren't applying human filters and human checks and balances, then the consequences can be really significant. This clip, and since we had some challenges with the other one, I won't try to play this one. This clip is from 2001, A Space Odyssey. It's even older than War Games. It's from, I think, 1969. And the quote, "I'm sorry, Dave, I'm afraid I can't do that," is spoken by HAL, I think it's like HAL 9000, is the onboard artificial intelligence that controls the space capsule. And Dave is a human astronaut who's trying to get back into the capsule from a spacewalk outside. In this particular clip, Hal starts to malfunction. And Dave says, "Hal, let me in." And Hal says, "I'm sorry, Dave, I'm afraid I can't do that because there's something not quite right with Hal's helmet, I think, and how it's attached." Keep in mind, Dave, the astronaut, is hanging out in space. He needs to get into the air, the oxygen, right? And Hal's saying, "Absolutely not, can't do that. Can't do it." So 1969 to, let's see, 69, 79, 89, 99, 2009, 55 years ago, this was a movie about AI. Now, this particular clip is more indicative, and here's where the next generation of AI is coming in, of something called agentic AI. Agentic AI is advanced form of artificial intelligence, and it's focused on autonomous decision-making and action. The key word when we're thinking about agentic AI is an agent. What does an agent do? It acts on your behalf. So Fidele, tell me a vacation destination you'd love to go to.
I'd like to go back to Hawaii.
Oh, Fidele, that Hawaii is such a beautiful place. I love it.
Yes.
All right. So it's pretty normal to search using like maybe Expedia.com, right? We search and you find a wonderful lodge, and you've got the car rental, and you've got the plane tickets, and you book a few meals. That's generative AI, right? It's helping you put together this itinerary.
Yes.
Agentic AI is a little different. In agentic AI, you would tell whatever software system you're using, put together a trip for me to Hawaii and book it. Just book it. It's going to do that on your behalf. The catch is that you may not like what it chooses for you. And because you've told it to go ahead and book the vacation on your behalf, if you are not extremely specific, it might book something for you you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you may have wanted to go to Oahu, and it books you on Maui. Maybe it books a hike up the volcano, and you really didn't want to go hike a volcano. You wanted to just sit on the beach. So the ethical piece of agentic AI comes in where you have to be so specific with what you tell it. And knowing that AI can hallucinate, can make things up. You could end up, or your clients, if you're using agentic AI on their behalf, could end up with something, a product or services they don't want. And it might be too late to undo it. So let's do a little compare and contrast. Again, this is from cloud.google.com. Generative AI uses large language models. Takes mostly language. The next generation in generative AI is coming in through pictures and videos. So it uses large language models to create new content. I saw a demonstration on Google where it took a single picture of a woman, and the creator was using Gemini and other Google software. It made a 2-minute video of her celebrating a birthday from that one picture. I've also seen videos on social media where somebody's at a zoo and the animal comes right through the glass, kind of like in Harry Potter with the snake. And those are completely AI generated. It can multitask, it can perform out-of-the-box tasks, it can summarize, it can answer a question, it can classify, and it can do all of this and more. But it's dependent upon supervised learning. Somebody has to tell it what to do. With agentic AI, it's a subset of generative AI, and it uses these large language models as a brain to actually perform actions. It uses AI agents as tools, and it goes beyond content creation by executing actions in underlying systems to autonomously achieve higher level goals. If you were going to use AI And one of the slides coming up, I want you and your viewers to think about, would I use generative or would I use agentic AI, and why? Because there's different consequences. So let's talk a little bit about some of that ethical decision making. We use a model, a quadrant model, very simple model, where doing the ethical thing or doing the unethical thing is on a vertical axis. On the horizontal axis, it intersects with what's right for your organization or your cause, or maybe what's wrong for your cause. Most of us probably prefer to think about our decision making in which quadrant, Fidel?
The right?
Yeah, we want it to be the right for the organization, right? And doing the ethical thing. So quadrant two makes sense. That's where most of us want to be.
Yep.
But sometimes we might need to make a decision that is a little closer to the middle. Maybe a small nonprofit needs to accept a large donation in order to survive. But that donation comes with some unethical strings. Right? So instead of being solidly in quadrant two, maybe it falls in quadrant four. It's good for the organization, but it might not be the ethical thing. We're never going to say to somebody, oh, everything always has to be in number two. There are circumstances that will put it closer to the middle. But what we want is for people to understand why their decision ended up in a particular quadrant. For example, if we think about maybe an ethical issue we've faced recently, what were the considerations that you had to think about in this decision? And maybe what quadrant did that issue land in? And for those of your listeners and your viewers who are consider themselves leaders, which I would argue everybody is a leader, where do you generally fall as a leader? Which quadrant and why? The why is the most important question when it comes to ethics. Why? Here's another model. This was created by our founder, Dr. Beverly Crocker. Think far, think wide, and think high. So when we're making an ethical decision, we have to think high, which are our values and virtues. We have to think wide, our rights, our duties, and our fairness for all. We have to think far. What's the serious long-term implications? Is it going to harm or be helpful to other people? And I won't go through all of the questions here, but these are, again, just prompts to help you think about, if I have to make a decision, do I have all the facts? Who are the stakeholders? What are my options? What's fair? What if other people found out? How will this impact my organization or my community? So here's a couple of examples at work in which type of AI, either generative or agentic, you might use to make an ethical decision. Summarizing multiple data points for a report. Pretty easy. I think most people would use generative. Hey, ChatGPT, can you make a recommendation based on these 10 data points? What should I do? Pretty easy. Even evaluating the effectiveness of the process. Hey, ChatGPT, here's a process. Where might it break down? Okay, pretty easy. Creating a solution to solve a problem. Okay, hey, ChatGPT, I've got this issue. Here are the facts. Here are my considerations. What's my solution? But this last one, this is really where the proverbial rubber meets the road. If you have a summary of the data points and you've evaluated the effectiveness of the process and you've created a solution to solve a problem, using agentic AI, you take it one step further and you say, okay, now implement that solution. But if you are the only person that is overseeing this process, or you've delegated it to somebody and they're not familiar, what's the danger, right? that person may not create some checks and balances when it comes to agentic AI implementing the solution before it's really formally been analyzed and vetted. Making a policy or financial recommendation. This is just a recommendation. This doesn't mean that it's going to be implemented. That's the biggest difference between generative and agentic. Generative, summarizing, making a recommendation, creating a solution, doing some evaluation. Agentic takes it to a whole new ethical level because it implements the solution on its own. Here's some examples across Nebraska. So insurance providers in Nebraska can't use AI to make sole decisions about coverage or claims acceptance or rejection. AI talent recruiting software screens resumes. I worked for an organization once where we used talent recruiting software and it screened resumes. It also went so far as to toss certain resumes into the virtual trash that it didn't feel met my keywords. Problem with that is that I had 20 years experience in hiring for this area and I'm familiar with subtleties. So when it didn't see the specific keywords, it tossed that resume in the trash. I like to see every single resume. I found the perfect candidate's resume in the trash. And she was the person I ended up hiring. If I had just listened to the AI, I never would have found her. I gave you the example earlier of AI that writes a legal brief for an attorney. If you're going as far as agentic, it's not only writing it, but it's submitting it to the court on behalf of the attorney and the client. Robots. Is a robot used in the manufacturing or building process agentic or generative? Could be both. But what about a robot that operates autonomously in the operating room? That adds a whole different level of ethical behavior, right? It's one thing to build a robot and program it to build widgets. How would you feel if a robot was built and programmed to remove your appendix without a doctor present? That's a very different scenario. And if we know AI is prone to hallucinations, right, made up things, what's our responsibility to double check AI generated work? So in the last couple minutes of the presentation, I want to just talk about regulations for AI. Many professions have policies that regulate AI use. Students use it to cheat. Students use it to write legitimate papers. What's a policy? Attorneys use it to write briefs. But what's the responsibility from the legal profession to check those briefs? At the state level, AI policies are still a patchwork. There's no consistency from Nebraska to Colorado to Maine to Texas. There's no federal guidance. President Trump has said he wants this to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Internationally, however, the European Union policies, they focus on data privacy for individuals more so than the ability of free trade and economics in organizations. So they have much tougher guidance on a broader scale about data privacy and the use of AI. They are going to be more defaulting towards the individual, whereas here in the United States, we tend to default more towards businesses and organizations. So let's talk about using AI ethically. Our own mindset for using AI, it's absolutely critical when we work with it. You have to think about how much risk you're willing to take on, or if you're making the decision on the behalf of the organization, how much risk is the organization willing to take on? What are the biases and or discrimination aspects organizations risk implementing by using AI? When you're considering AI and people involvement, humans being out of the loop, the AI loop, possesses the highest ethical risk. When people are over the AI loop, but not completely out of it, the risk moves to more moderate. When they are in the AI loop, when they are an integral part of all of the work being done with AI, that's the lowest ethical risk, as long as the human beings are ethical. We also need to think about, at what point is human involvement critical and irreplaceable? Is this a frontline worker who's making widgets? Is it a doctor who's performing surgery? I don't know. There's no great answers. Last slide. Dr. Kathy Meyer-Hellstern is Google's Director of Responsible AI. And she had these 4 takeaways for us. She came and presented to the Business Ethics Alliance in August of 2023. The responsibility to develop, program, and implement appropriate AI uses lies solely with human beings. Solely. The responsibility solely lies with human beings. I can't stress that enough. As human beings, we bring our thoughts, knowledge, perceptions, and feelings with us into whatever context we encounter. Context for adults is a hallmark of adult learning. Context critical to assimilating new knowledge for people, especially adults. It determines how we're going to act using that knowledge in the future. So the bottom line here, if we want generative AI to be used ethically and responsibly, it's up to us. It is up to us as human beings to program generative AI models to do that. I have another quote about ethical behavior. AI can be used as a tool to assist in determining ethical behavior, but the determination of what is ethical ultimately relies on human judgment and values. AI systems can be programmed to follow ethical guidelines or principles, and they can be used to analyze complex ethical dilemmas and provide insights. However, AI lacks the ability to make inherently ethical judgments without human input. It can only process information based on the data and instructions it has been given. Fidel, do you want to take a guess as to the author of the quote?
I am not sure. I can guess right now.
Okay. Ready to see who said the quote?
Yes.
ChatGPT.
Chat.
I literally posed the question to ChatGPT, can AI make ethical decisions? And this is the answer it gave me.
Wow, that is interesting. I thought of that for 1 second. It was, okay.
It sounds like a person, right? It sounds like somebody evaluating.
Yeah.
No, this was ChatGPT. So what I'm going to do now, because I know we're probably at about that time where if there are questions or comments or anything, I want your viewers to have that opportunity. Or if you've got questions or comments, AI is it's a fascinating opportunity. But when we delegate it out and we don't think about the ethical consequences for people, it can do so much more harm than good. And it's been interesting. The discussions have been fascinating when I do this presentation for different organizations and they go, I never thought of that.
Yeah. I could not agree with you more. Thank you so much, AnnMarie, for that insightful presentation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Joining us. We will now transition to our Q&A session. Let's see if there are any questions in the chat. I don't see any questions here, but of course I do have some for you because I always come ready.
Not a problem. Hit me with your questions.
So my first question to you is, what are the biggest ethical risks businesses face when adopting AI tools today?
I think if you go back to what our mindsets are, the slide about mindset, when we don't consider what our own mindset is and what the mindset of the organization is, that's the biggest ethical risk. So for example, many organizations, and including nonprofit organizations, are starting to develop AI policies that will guide internal use, right? You can use AI for this, but not for that. Or if you use AI for this, these are also the conditions that have to be met. The challenge is that we're just starting that. And so if we are part of a bigger community, I think people inherently want to believe that businesses and business practices are ethical, right? We want to inherently believe that. And when we have inconsistency, excuse me, when we have inconsistency, particularly with AI, that company A is going to do it this way, company X is going to do it this way, we don't know who to believe and we don't know who to trust. So we risk trust. We risk consistency, which is a contributor to trust. We risk losing our client base or our customer base, because if they don't trust us, I'm not going to go do business with somebody I don't trust, right? And so if we aren't cautious and intentional about why we're using AI and how we're using it, we risk the trust of those we want to be engaged with. Yes, AI can be an incredible time saver, an incredible cost saver. It can automate jobs. But if we completely take human beings out of that loop, who's watching AI? That's the ethical issue.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
That's good. How can small businesses ensure that they are using AI responsibly without having large compliance teams?
Yes, that's a great question. There are quite a few, what do I want to call them? Professional organizations or affinity groups that meet both formally and informally to talk about AI. A couple of weeks ago, I had the privilege of attending an AI meetup group. And this is a group of folks in technology who meet, I think, once a month, and they explore different aspects of AI. You can hire a consultant, you can hire a big tech firm, you can hire a small tech firm. And you're going to have to pay for that, though, right? Those are consulting services. So when small business owners, individual entrepreneurs are looking for advice, find someone in the community, get a recommendation, just search, even AI groups in Omaha. And with that little bit of research, then the group that I went to didn't cost a thing. It was free. And there were probably 75 or 80 professionals there.
Okay.
And I'm, reasonably familiar enough, at least with the ethical pieces, but I was taking notes like crazy. And if I ever needed an expert or I needed guidance or recommendations, most of these folks would be willing to, I think, at least sit down and have a quick conversation. And if it wasn't the right fit, they would recommend. So doing your homework is really important, and looking to these different meet groups, about AI, I think is a great low-cost way to start.
That's awesome. I have two more questions that I would like to ask, but let's see if we can get them in.
Okay. Sure.
Are there simple frameworks or guidelines small businesses can follow to stay ethically aligned when using AI?
So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is it depends. And that reflects a little bit of my teacher brain coming through. If I were to recommend to one of my best friends maybe who doesn't know anything about AI or knows what it is but doesn't know how or where to start, I would recommend that they first do research into any professional guidelines. So for example, if my best friend is an accountant, I know that there are accounting guidelines. There's codes of ethics that accountants have to follow, right? I know that they need a certain amount of ethics credits to maintain their standing, maybe as a CPA. And if they do not adhere to those professional standards, the consequences are huge. They could lose their license or their certification to practice.
Right.
And without that, they're out of luck, right? So to me, understanding the professional responsibilities one has is first and foremost. If you don't, you can't practice. That's just bottom line. Then I would look to, why do I want to use AI? What am I hoping to get out of it? Is it because maybe I'm not a strong writer and so Grammarly can help me with my writing? Okay, that's a pretty low risk, right? Is it because I want AI to create images for me for marketing? Okay. Now you've got the question of, where is AI getting those images? Does it, I remember there was a case of one writer who had just written a book and it was still under copyright law. But he found out that an AI system was taking bits and pieces of his book without permission and using them to create images and text. So the purpose of AI and how extensively you want to use it, I think, are also more important. Do they align with the mission, right? And am I going to break somebody's trust because I'm using AI, but I'm not using it ethically? Or maybe I'm just not even disclosing that I'm using AI.
That's good. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, AnnMarie, again, for sharing your expertise with us today, your insights on AI ethics or responsible innovation were incredibly valuable. We truly appreciate your time and leadership this evening. Thank you so much.
It has been my honor, my pleasure. I love what Mac is doing, for the entrepreneurs who belong, and your viewers can absolutely reach out to us anytime. We're happy to, talk with them and just give a little bit. We're not attorneys, so we don't give legal advice, but we can certainly help to point you in the right direction and ask some of these kinds of questions. And that's what we do at our signature events. Our one coming up is about the one that got away. So what are the consequences when you make an ethical decision, or maybe it's an unethical decision, right? What happens as a consequence? Did you lose a business? Did you lose a client? Or if you stood your ethical ground, did you gain a client? So that's coming up on May 7th at Woodman Life. It's geared towards executives, but we always have these kinds of conversations at those events.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us and our viewers. So hopefully someone will be able to join and learn a little bit more about what you guys do and what you have to offer. So before we wrap up, I have a few brief announcements. Our Ubuntu Mixer will take place on Thursday, April 30th at 5 p.m. at Millwork Commons. This is a special invitations-only gathering bringing together entrepreneurs, leaders, and partners ahead of Pitch Black. The Pitch Black Conference 2026 will take place, I know it's coming up so soon, will take place on Saturday, May 2nd. This year's theme is Culture, Capital, Change. Be sure to secure your tickets if you haven't yet and join us for a powerful day of entrepreneurship, innovation, and community impact. Grind and Grounds will take place on May 7th from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. at Omaha 100. Join us for coffee, connection, and opportunity to grow your network and build meaningful relationships. Stay connected with us for upcoming Power Hour sessions and programs designed to support your business growth and leadership journey. See what else we have here. Thank you again to our audience for joining us for this Power Hour Business Development Virtual Live Stream powered by Google. To learn more about the Midlands African Chamber and upcoming events, please visit www.midlandsafricanchamber.com. Have a great evening, and remember, stay informed, stay inspired, and build with purpose. Thank you once again, and have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.